Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Whatcha Gonna Queue, the only video series where one of the co-hosts has redeemed himself by finally getting a haircut as he promised us 2 weeks ago. For those of you who may be new to the show, Whatcha Gonna Queue is a weekly video series in which we highlight some of the best titles that Netflix has to offer, with our recommendations broken down into 3 categories. Instant Karma, where we recommend some of the best instant titles to watch before they expire. What the F is This?, where we highlight some of the obscure or overlooked titles buried in the annals of Netflix. And For Your Consideration, where the recommended titles tie into a timely, predetermined cinematic theme. As always, I am one of your co-hosts, Jim Rohner.
And I'm your other co-host, Alex Rabinowitz.
Yes, and like every other episode, today is a special episode. It is the episode in which we are celebrating our survival of the supposedly imminent Judgment Day that was supposed to take place on May 21st.
Right.
Alex, on behalf of myself and all of the internet, I'm glad that we survived.
Me too.
Yeah, so I think to celebrate, we should break up some movie recommendations.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. Jackie Brown is Quentin Tarantino's follow-up to the Oscar-winning Pulp Fiction and stars Pam Grier as a titular character, an aging flight attendant who smuggles money from Mexico into the U.S., for gunrunner Ordell Robbie, played by Samuel L. Jackson. Arrested for unknowingly smuggling in cocaine, Jackie agrees to help the ATF bring Robbie to justice, while simultaneously convincing Robbie to let her live by pretending to help the ATF. However, Jackie, along with bail bondsman Max Cherry, played by Robert Forster, has plans of her own.
$500,000 will always be missed.
Now, Tarantino set the bar really high for himself with Pulp Fiction, obviously a monster success both critically and financially. So then when Jackie Brown came out, which wasn't an original Quentin Tarantino production, but just an adaptation of a novel by Elmore Leonard, people were kind of turned off by it. And it's only really been in recent years, I think, that people are kind of looking back and re-exploring it and kind of thinking, wow, this is actually a much better film than we thought initially.
And it's amazing how harmonious Elmore Leonard and Quentin Tarantino fit together.
Rum Punch, the name of the novel, it was really conducive to Quentin Tarantino's style. You know, Jackie Brown is a crime caper, but if you think back on it, Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction are really largely crime capers as well. Initially, on top of that, it's just got these really great fleshed out characters in which Tarantino could, you know, even more flesh out with his just really sharp dialogue because it's got a really sharp plot. And as Quentin Tarantino is wont to do, it's a great opportunity to homage past genres. With Jackie Brown, specifically with the kind of gritty aesthetic and the groovy soundtrack, Quentin Tarantino is homaging blaxploitation films in the 1970s, and I think that really adds another layer of enjoyment to it as well.
Is she dead? Yes or no, is she dead? Pretty much.
Blaxploitation? Never heard of it. But Tarantino also is so good at casting, and another one of his strengths that's on display in Jackie Brown.
Similar to what Tarantino did with John Travolta's career by revitalizing with Pulp Fiction, he does the same thing here with Pam Grier primarily, but then also Robert Forster. Neither of those two had really been the leads in anything for at least a decade or two, so he puts them here in front of the spotlight, and they shine. They're both really excellent. Supporting cast is also great. Chris Tucker is hilarious in the short amount of time that he's there. Samuel L. Jackson, of course, is fantastic, as he always is. The most surprising performance, I think, though, is Robert De Niro, who's not a lead role, but a minor role. He's not playing a tough guy as he normally does, but actually a very dim-witted, recently paroled pothead kind of guy. It's a very unexpected performance, but very memorable as well.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even know that he was in this movie. But when does it expire?
It expires pretty soon on June 15th, so I think you should go out and watch it right away. It's it's a really good movie, and you'll feel really good when you're done watching it too. Which
is the exact opposite of how you're going to feel after watching my movie that I'll be recommending in Section 2. Directed by Independent Spirit Award nominee Ronald Bronstein, Frownland is a misanthropic independent character study about Keith Sontag, a miserable, socially inept black hole of a human being. Doorman plays the aforementioned character, whose bleak adventures bounce from a disastrous relationship to a noxious roommate to an unforgiving city, all the while delivering a confrontational yet humorous skewed view of the world.
She's gonna see a burbling troll in his underwear. You think that's my ideal living situation?
Up front, know that Frownland is very bizarre and extremely divisive. It is really meant to unsettle you and make you feel uncomfortable. It's not an easy film to watch, and it's not supposed to be an easy film to watch. Everything from the direction, to the performances, to the writing, to the production design, to the cinematography, it's all supposed to make you feel really uneasy and just crawl in your skin almost.
Yeah, it's like uncomfortable like this.
Yeah.
Well, I don't actually really like uncomfortable, Alex. I like my t-shirt soft, my sweatpants baggy, and my couch extremely comfortable. So what about Frownland is not going to make it an entirely miserable experience? What can I enjoy about it?
It's got some really twisted, ironic humor. It's a dark comedy, and it is, I would say, the darkest of dark comedies I have ever seen. It's so off-putting that at some point you just have to laugh at how it's making you feel awful. And you know, it's kind of like this modern brand of humor that's finding the humor in the awkward moments. You know, it's kind of the most extreme version of that.
You have 2 minutes and you're out the door, all right? And this counts as your 2 minutes. Okay.
And similar to the feelings I have for you, I'm not really sure. Sounds like if I should hate or love Frownland.
Ronnie Bronstein wanted to make a movie with no empathetic center. In most movies, you are supposed to sympathize and relate to the main character. If you do that here, something is probably clinically wrong with you. You're not supposed to align yourself with any character in this movie, and it creates a really unique experience, different from most films out there that are being made today. And this was done with full intention, and they really honed this over several years. They made this movie whenever they had the money and the time, and what they would do is, to get this character to where they wanted it, they would write a scene, rehearse it, improvise, record their improvisations, and then rewrite the scene. And they did this over and over and over again until Doorman was so deep within this character, and it really shows in the final product.
Wow, such a deep, clinically disturbing movie with a lack of empathy is really making me dig through the recesses of my soul and reflect on my life. Which is actually pretty convenient, because that's spiritually the theme that we're going to be exploring in Section 3. Terrence Malick can be many things to many people. Puzzling, reclusive, meditative, dull, provocative, poet, and perhaps cybernetic life form sent from the future to destroy us all. We can't really be sure. He doesn't really sit down for too many interviews. But love or hate Malick's deliberate style of filmmaking, one thing we can all agree on is that they are always visually stunning. Shot by Oscar-nominated Emmanuel Lubezki, Malick's most recent work, Tree of Life, comes out this weekend, and seeing as he's not exactly the most prolific director in the world, we decided to dedicate For Your Consideration to his aesthetic spirit rather than to his resume. So in For Your Consideration, we're going to be recommending some of our favorite visually striking films.
Yay!
The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford is a psychoanalytical historical epic that explores the more unidealized side of both the mythical outlaw, played by Brad Pitt, and his imminent assassin, played by Casey Affleck. Ford, who has always idolized James, perhaps unhealthily, works hard to endear himself into the outlaw's gang, only to find his obsession twisting into resentment as the arrogant James's psyche begins to crumble into uncertainty and paranoia.
Who are you then?
Bob Ford. I'm an authority on the James boys.
Is you?
Fair warning to you, Alex, and fair warning to all you viewers who may be curious in seeing this film. The Assassination of Jesse James is not your typical Western. So you take all these ideas of real shoot-'em-up, action-y type of Westerns like The Wild Bunch or Tombstone, throw them away. You should look instead to revisionist Westerns like Robert Altman's The McCabe and Mrs. Miller. Plus, it's a healthy 2 hours and 40 minutes long, so this is really a movie that you have to be in the mood to sit down and watch. You can't really just throw it in during a party.
But you know, you mentioned that it's long, and I think that this is a positive for the film because it really allows it to delve into these characters more than you would get in an hour and a half.
Yeah, helped, of course, by the source material upon which the film is based, you know, a novel by the same name, which attempts to dig through the myth of Jesse James and Robert Ford and just kind of approach them as more down-to-earth, relatable people. Jesse James is really fascinating because, you know, he was the biggest celebrity of his day, so obviously his character is going to really wrestle with some, you know, emotional and psychological weight with that, the most common problem being paranoia of the people around him trying to turn him in. And then the character of Robert Ford is really intricate and fascinating thanks to a great performance by Casey Affleck, who's this guy that you kind of really revile for his kind of pathetic obsession at first, but then as his mood kind of alters and he ends up assassinating Jesse James, he becomes known for something much more different. And it's almost kind of tragic how this obsession overtakes him and he becomes known for this one solid act as opposed to anything else in his entire life.
You know what it is you're most afraid of?
Afraid of being forgotten.
But why are you recommending this movie?
Quit frown-landing me, Alex. I'm recommending this movie because it is shot by the incomparable DP Roger Deakins, who despite being nominated for 8 Oscars has yet to win 1. His work is absolutely beautiful. It's very soft, it's very meditative, and the writer-director Andrew Dominic has said that Malick's films were a big influence for him. Specifically, there's one scene in the film at the very beginning, which I think is just gorgeous, where there's a train robbery taking place at night. It's very dreamlike, very dark. The entire scene is shot by just one light and a lot of lanterns of Jesse James Outlaws, and it's very dreamlike. I would even say that it's visual poetry.
Speaking of poetry,
Uh-oh.
I've written a poem just for the occasion.
Okay.
Roses are red, violets are blue. For Section 3, I'll be recommending Pan's Labyrinth on Whatcha Gonna Queue.
Brings tears to my eyes and pains to the cockles of my heart.
Guillermo del Toro takes it to the next level with Pan's Labyrinth, his 2006 period fantasy that spends half its time in war-torn Spain, circa 1944, and the other half in the twisted make-believe of a 10-year-old girl. Ivana Baquero plays said 10-year-old Ophelia, who is forced to live with her terrorizing war captain stepfather on his military base, as played by Sergi Lopez. Ophelia seeks refuge in an eerie fantasy where she meets Pan, a mythic satyr who assigns her with 3 daunting tasks.
Sois vos?
All the film buffs out there, most fans of our show, will be familiar with Pan's Labyrinth, probably. It was met with a lot of critical acclaim when it came out in 2006. Really launched Del Toro's career up into, like I said, another level. And it got 6 Oscar nominations and received 3 wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly after Pan's Labyrinth, Del Toro could have done whatever he wanted to. Fans of the show will also recognize that we referenced Pan's Labyrinth before, specifically in our Oscar episode, specifically when it came down to the category of cinematography.
Right. And yes, it did beat out Children of Men for the Oscar for cinematography, but I think that Pan's Labyrinth was just as deserved, and you know, I'm not losing any sleep over it winning Best Cinematography because it really is visually breathtaking. Del Toro has this penchant for these handcrafted special effects that really create this bold, visceral experience with this movie, and that only help enhance the metaphor that's drawn between the harsh, real, war-torn Spain and then these dark fantasies occurring within the mind of this 10-year-old girl.
Yeah, and I certainly think that the way that the film kind of seamlessly transitions in and out of those is one of the reasons why the cinematography was so deserving. But as we've seen in the past, Del Toro loves his practical effects, loves his fantastical elements. At his worst, he's a little bit of style over substance, as shown in Hellboy 2. But at his best, like Pan's Labyrinth, it's a perfect mix between fantastical, wonderful elements, but these really dark, harsh, emotional connections as well.
Yeah, and Del Toro wrote the script for this as well, and a lot of credit should be given to him because the story is really brilliantly woven. It's got some, the 3 tasks create a very nice story balance, and then it's got a really fitting but tragic ending. All wonderful aspects of filmmaking and script writing, and cements him as, a filmmaker that can have an artistic vision and execute on that vision as well.
Yeah, and a fun little tidbit, actually, the award-winning DP that he had for this, Guillermo Navarro, was also the DP on the film that we mentioned in Section 1, Jackie Brown.
Oh, we're coming full circle.
Yeah, so that's a good way for me to arbitrarily bookend and end the show.
Okay.
Which is what I'm going to do. So thanks again for watching, guys. We are always available easily via the interwebs. We have a Facebook page where you can post a picture of your queue if you want some advice on what to do. You can visit our Twitter account because we're always tweeting fun and interesting things, and if not, it's probably Alex's fault. And we have a website where we're always posting articles on the latest news in Netflix, instant streaming, and just movie watching in general. Thanks again, guys, and remember, until next time, don't that picture look dusty?